Good morning. Hi, my name is Morning Dave, and yes, I'm back. It's 8:40. And speaking of being back, he's been here all week long. We were kind of catching up on the phone as to what I missed during the week that I was kind of incommunicado from everything. Time checking on your finances. Phillip Statler is here, courtesy of Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring. Phillip, good morning. It's good to hear your voice on the phone.
Hey, good morning, Dave. Glad you had some downtime. That's important to get some downtime and some, revitalization. So glad you're back in the seat this morning. And I know Scotty's glad he was able to sleep in this morning.
I suspect so. He was doing my job and his all week last week. So I think he's probably looking forward to a semi-normal week. What the Sam Hill went on while I was gone anyway? The Dow was off 179 points on Friday, and you'd think it would be during earnings season that we'd be trading like crazy because Washington is expected to be boring for a little while.
Well, it's interesting. There were some ups and downs last week, depending upon what was being going on. I mean, some of it was COVID related, vaccine related, those type of things. So, but nothing really. Obviously, there wasn't much on the macro front coming out to cause anything. So, most of it was trading on global coronavirus issues that popped up last week.
And you really can't avoid hearing about those even when you're on a news diet. I know about most of those events last week. We're in the middle of earnings season, or at least the early stages of it. How did the financials do last week? Because the flurry was, we were going to finish off the financials last week while I was gone. Did our financial stocks have an on-balance, decent earnings season? Because things were looking kind of greasy when I left town.
They did. Most of the financials were in, they beat expectations for the most part. There was a couple there. Wells Fargo had some issues, but if I remember right, they're the main one that comes to my mind. But for all in all, most aspects, we saw positive earnings. Sometimes revenue was a little bit off, but and we saw reduced loan losses too, again, for that quarter.
Okay. In other words, kind of continued the way the early ones were going, a little bit shy on the revenue side, but managing to make the numbers at the final analysis.
That's right. And we had some big winners, but other than that, I think we're looking good. This week though, Dave, we got a lot of names coming out. It starts really what I call the wheel going down the hill today, because it's going to start rolling, and by Friday we're going to be covered up in earnings.
I'm kind of looking at my earnings schedule. It's going to be a lot of brand names out this week. The headline makers are probably going to be heavily with the tech stocks. I was reading over the weekend that even with all the guff that social media is getting, expectations are for Facebook to set a new earnings record and a bunch of the other social media networks and tech stocks. It's going to be kind of an interesting week after a relatively quiet start this morning. But you've got some lead-in news, I know, including one that's kind of ancillary to the tech sector, among other things that are leading into the news items this week.
So it is. So I want to talk just a minute about a couple stocks that are really and truly showing up on everybody's radar as huge increases. The first one is GameStop. So GameStop, I've batted them back and forth when earnings come around because, they're big in malls. And so you wondered how they're going to continue to survive. Obviously, they've gotten a boost in demand during this pandemic, but their stock, a matter of fact, it's kind of funny because my son was asking me about it this weekend. In 2 days, they're up 105%.
Right.
Yeah. So he's saying, well, what's the deal? Why are they doing that? So I pulled it up and started looking, and so it's a squeeze on short sellers. Okay. So here's the deal. Everybody was shorting their stock, it seems like. A matter of fact, it was 135% oversold, meaning people had sold more stock than was actually out there. And so as the price started going up, people had to get out of it. They had to sell it and give it back to the person they borrowed it from. So they were getting margin calls. And so you got to see them start to sell their stock. And as they started selling, people, they wanted you to pay more for it. So they drove the price up even more. It's crazy. It was up 51% on Friday. Is up 55% this morning. Dave, the 52-week high was $76 a share. It's $100 this morning.
Wow, this is the cartoon picture of what happens when an investor guesses wrong, right?
Yeah, and there's going to be some people that are big underwater on this deal.
I expect.
And it's going to be interesting to see.
I'm sorry, GameStop has always fascinated me because they used to be the place that you go to buy the cartridges for your Atari or your PS, whatever it was. And with all the downloads and everything being online, they've had to completely reinvent themselves as a store. They're nothing like they were 5-7 years ago.
Well, that's true. You're right. They have had to do that, and that's been a big thing for them. And they were doing okay. You know, they were making some progress in that area, but not to the extent we're seeing the price of the stock right now. I mean, that just makes no sense. I mean, you got a 52-week low of $2.57, Dave.
Good. I got to admit, I probably, if I had the money to play the game, I probably would have been one of the ones shorting that stock as well because I wasn't optimistic. I wasn't optimistic on them at all. Every once in a while, you get surprised, don't you?
That's right. So another stock that's in the same boat, before we talk about the one or two that we got earnings I'll report on, is Express, and they're the apparel retailer. And I'm not sure what the deal is for them, but they are up. I don't know if it's shorting. But again, they're a very low price stock. So they closed on Friday at $1.79, and they were up 53% on Friday. This morning, they're up $1.91, which is 106% from where they closed out on Friday to $3.70. So now, granted, their 52-week range is they've been as low as 57 cents and as high as $5.15. So I'm not sure if there was a short sell in there. I haven't been able to ascertain exactly what's causing this one to do what it's doing, but it's been crazy. I know they did get some financing. They were able to secure about $140 million in financing, but that to me doesn't justify a 125% increase in the stock price.
I got to bet that probably is another case of short sellers getting caught with their pants down. I mean, it's a mall store, required financing in order to keep them afloat, and all the mall stores are under some duress of late. Sometimes you get surprised, and sometimes you're dead wrong when you short sell somebody, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's truly a gamble when you start short selling. But we do have one earning out there today.
Yeah.
Kimberly-Clark, the consumer product, the toilet paper towel guys, they reported they beat by 9 cents a share, came in at $1.69. Revenue also was ahead of expectations. And they announced an increase in their quarterly dividend to $1.14 a share, up from $1.07, so 7-cent increase there. And so they've done well. They're up 1.3% this morning to $134 right now.
And as we all learned during a pandemic, there's one thing we don't want to live without. It's toilet paper.
That's right. Yeah.
I used to live just up the road from the Kimberly-Clark factory. We always figured we were recession-proof because the last thing in the world companies and individuals want to live without is TP. So I guess that's almost proving to be the case, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Definitely. You're right. That is. People do not want to be shorted on that.
Understood. Other indications early in the week for earnings season?
Yeah, that's really all we have. I mean, the other big macro thing we got coming up on Thursday, I think, Dave, is the first GDP reading comes out.
Okay. That's right. We're going to be looking at the fourth quarter now to see how we actually did. And the indications from the retail sales have been that we're not going to be overly impressed by it. Does the market expect a big increase or a big decrease?
You know, I don't know that I've seen the floated first number yet come out. It's one of those things that the guys I follow, they wait until the day before they start posting their expectations.
And they don't like to be wrong, so that probably makes sense. The only macro bit I got was the Chicago Federal Reserve Index. Chicago Fed Business Index was up. Once again, these indexes, you can't compare them district to district because they all use different formulas, but it was up 0.52 was their number this month. Last month it was 0.31, so there are some hopeful signs at the very least that business conditions are at least leveling off, if not improving a little bit.
Well, hopefully so. I mean, the big thing last week too, Dave, while you were gone, was Bitcoin. Bitcoin was swinging like 20% up, 20% down. It was massive changes there. It's gaining some speed today. It's up about 7% this morning.
One of the stories that I saw while I was just perusing on my iPad while I was on vacation was the story of a fellow that had a few $1 million in Bitcoin stored on a thumb drive, and he'd misplaced the password for the thumb drive. And those things are so locked so doggone well. If you can't find your password, you're pretty well screwed. And we're talking about like $25 million worth of Bitcoin on a thumb drive, and he can't get into it.
Yeah. There were several stories floating around last week to that extent. And so, you hate to be those guys.
And yeah, without a doubt. Once again, we're looking at a day that was on Friday. It was a little bit on the offside. NASDAQ was up by a bit on Friday, but both the Dow and the S&P were down by almost 0.5% apiece. 45 minutes before we start trading this morning, Phillip, what are we looking at?
We got a little bit of a mixed boat this morning, Dave. We've got the Dow actually trading down almost 0.5% this morning. Everything else on the index, well, not everything else. Let's rephrase that. We got the S&P 500 up less than 0.1%, but the Nasdaq's going crazy again this morning, up almost 1%. Small caps getting beat up this morning, kind of the same as the Dow, down almost 0.5%. So on the index side, it's kind of a mixed boat. On the commodity side, I have to say it's kind of the same. We got silver up 0.6, gold's up 0.4. Crude oil is down significantly. I mean, we got up to almost $54 a barrel last week while you were gone, Dave. It's down to 52.15. That's down about 0.25%. From where it closed.
We'll cross our fingers that we're getting back into the trading range we were getting used to. You start bumping your nose on 55 and we start complaining about prices being too high.
That's right. Yep, we do. So we stay between that 50, 55, we'll be happy.
Under 55, over 52, that's a good place to be. Overseas markets, Asian rim markets, for the most part, were up considerably this morning at the close. European markets are off by 1% or so, pretty much across the board midway through their day as they look at our futures. Phillip, it's one of those times where risk control is the factor to have in your portfolio. Looking at the wild swings on a couple of the stocks we were talking about early on, probably good poster child indication that taking chances sometimes don't pan out all that good. How do I find you in order to take the risk out of my portfolio or know where it is?
Then give us a call at 863-382-0037. It's a great opportunity, start of the year, to get a second opinion on your current portfolio. And then go to our website, statlerfinancial.com. There's a link to our schedule there. And a lot of our past radio shows are hosted there also. And then join us this weekend for the Statler Financial Radio Show, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m.
And back here again tomorrow morning on Light FM. Phillip, thank you so much. We'll catch you tomorrow.
All right, man. Glad you're back, and I look forward to the conversation tomorrow.
And I do appreciate it. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services, Phillip Statler.
Folks, I hope your week is off to a great start. Thanks for joining us. Again, remember, we're here as a resource for you and your family. If we can be of any help, please don't hesitate to give us a call. 863-382-0037. Have a great day. I look forward to you joining me again tomorrow.